A dying man lies on his deathbed in a kingdom far, far away. The man's name is Inglis, and he is the king of Silvar. All the people gathered around him are weeping as their beloved king is dying. Suddenly, a bright light appears next to Inglis. Now beside Inglis is a beautiful woman dressed in white with long lavender hair. Inglis addresses her as Divine Alastia, who seems to be a goddess. Inglis is very glad to see her before he dies from old age, and Alastia is also relieved that she can see him one last time. Alastia praises Inglis for all of his achievements when he was young, including becoming a hero, king, and serving the citizens of his kingdom throughout his long life. Inglis humbly says that he couldn't do all of his achievements without her blessing, but Alastia praises him even more, saying that his pure heart allowed him to slay many monsters and evil alike, and that she chose correctly in making Inglis her knight. Now Alastia is here to repay all the good deeds that Inglis did in his waking life. As a reward for all the deeds he has done, Alastia will grant any wish that Inglis desires, as long as it's within her power to do so. Inglis says that he wants to be reborn, as he wishes to dedicate his next life to fighting and becoming a great hero. Because he had spent his current life becoming the king of Silvar, he wonders what will happen if he spent his next entire life becoming a great hero swordsman, and smiles. Alastia grants Inglis's wish, cradling the dying man in a field of flowers, and looks forward to the day they reunite. As Inglis opens his eyes, he sees a man with white hair and a woman with black hair staring at him happily. The man's name is Luke, and the woman is called Serena. Inglis has successfully been reborn with the same name, and all. He looks confused as his new parents address him as a girl. He looks in the mirror, and not far away, and sees his new body. He's dressed in all pink and has a very feminine face. Yep, he's been reborn as a girl, all right. Inglis rises up from her crib, lamenting that she can't even swing a sword as a baby. As she looks at the swords and shield mounted on the wall, she then starts floating midair. Luckily, her divine blessing from Alastia is still intact. Inglis then explains about the concept of ether, which is the foundation of all creation in the world. And everything that exists has ether within them, and being able to control ether means that you exert your will over the world itself. Inglis then states that ether is, in essence, divine power. As Inglis is floating with the power of ether, she notices that nobody has been able to use it. Her thoughts are interrupted as someone from outside shouts that a bunch of Magizit beasts are attacking the city and advises them to take cover in the castle. Just then, Inglis's mother Serena barges in the room to escape with her. But Inglis is still in midair and stops floating. Inglis falls down onto her crib and she starts crying, in hopes that her mother will forget about what she had just seen. As Serena is running to the castle, Inglis thinks about how fascinating magical beasts are and how tough they are to fight. Serena arrives at the castle for cover, and we see another woman with black hair. Her name is Irina, Serena's sister. Here we see Irina's son Raphael, who is only 8 years old, and he is looking after his baby sister Rafina. Serena looks out of the window with Inglis in her arms, and Inglis is able to see what the Magizit beasts are. The Magizit beasts look like dragons with different colored horns and have black scales. Inglis wonders if they contain the power of condensed mana. From this, she concludes that the world has gotten much more dangerous. Inglis gets excited at the thought of fighting powerful monsters. However, Serena, Raphael, and Irina think that Inglis is scared because she keeps wiggling in her mother's arms. They chalk it up as Inglis being scared at first time seeing a magical beast. Serena hopes that the Magizit beasts will be gone so that the children are safe. Obviously, this somewhat upsets Inglis as she wants the magical beasts to exist so she can beat them up when she gets older. But nobody really knows what Inglis is saying as she is still a baby, and all they see is her wiggling around in her mother's arms. Raphael says he comments that he has received his rune, but all he can do is sit back and watch as others battle the Magizit beasts. He obviously wants to help the soldiers in battle. Seeing this, Inglis goes on to explain that the runes are needed to wield artifacts that allow you to beat Magizit beasts and that they are the mark of all knights. Serena also happens to have a rune and is different from Raphael's. Suddenly, a Magizit beast storms into the room, knocking back Irina with Rafina in her arms. Everyone is shocked, and Serena rushes in as Raphael prepares to battle with the Magazite beast. Serena entrusts both Inglis and Rafina to Raphael and tells him to run away with them. But Raphael does not want to back down from a fight. He puts both of the babies in a safe place and rushes to Serena's side to fight with her. Raphael begins attacking the Magazite beast, but his weapon does not do anything against the dragon. As you would need an artifact to kill a Magazite beast, the beast then unleashes an attack that knocks a pillar and both Serena and Raphael down. As the Magazite beast begins approaching the unconscious Inglis, Inglis interferes as she crawls to the creature. Inglis respects Raphael's will to become a hero and simply won't let him die in a place like this. She begins charging up her ether and unleashes a big ray of magic, killing the Magazite beast, threatening the city, and it bursts a large hole in the wall. However, Raphael is still conscious, and he has witnessed Inglis blast the Magazite beast into the next week. Thankfully, Raphael falls back unconscious. Inglis is relieved, hoping what Raphael saw was just a dream in his eyes. But because Inglis is just a baby, she falls unconscious as well, having used up all of her mana. As her body only has a small amount of it, now we see Inglis all grown up. She is 5 years old. She admires her own beauty in the mirror, but is interrupted as her mother and aunt point out that she loves looking at the mirror. The two continue teasing Inglis, with Irina being impressed with Inglis's mannerisms as she is very mature for her age. Rafina, who is called Rani by Inglis, appears behind her mother and invites her to play in the training grounds of the knights. Rani is seen playing with a sword and stumbles because she has never lifted a sword before. Inglis helps her stand up, and they both look at a grown Raphael, now age 13. As Raphael is the next lord and the heir of Lord Belford, a lot of people look up to him and have high expectations. Inglis is excited to spar with him one day, waiting to gauge how powerful Raphael will be in a duel. Then, a traveling merchant whose name is Rambach and his group appears. It seems that they are here to spar with the knights. Rani explains that traveling merchants often get attacked by Magazite beasts because they travel around often in unsafe areas, and Inglis is envious of them as they get to battle Magazite beasts frequently. Rani is confused for a moment, but Inglis shrugs it off, saying, "Never mind." Rani states that Raphael told her that the Rambach company is here to train with the knights so they can get stronger to fight against Magazite beasts that they will encounter along the way. Rambach introduces his son, Raul, who seems timid at first as he shakes Raphael's hand. In reality, he's actually a cocky bastard who mocks the knights by saying that because there are fewer Magazite beast attacks, they have grown rusty and weak. It is clear that he is strong and enjoys dominating the knights. As Rani points out that he had just beaten 10 people all by himself, a lot of the knights are pointing out how strong and unfair Raul is. Inglis, however, senses that something is wrong about Raul because of his unfair winning streak. It is obvious that Raul is using weak binding magic to weaken his opponent's movements, allowing him to get an opening and strike his opponents. However, Inglis explains that this only works if you are looking directly at Raul. Inglis also noticed that nobody has picked up on how suspicious Raul's winning streak is. Then, Inglis concludes that the people have lost all concept and knowledge of magic altogether because nobody has noticed. Raul beats another knight, and his sword goes flying towards Rani. Luckily, Inglis is able to catch it in time. Raphael thanks her for saving Rani in the nick of time. Meanwhile, Raul is still gloating and being a douche, saying that it feels like he's the one teaching the knights a lesson instead of the other way around. His father, Rambach, mockingly scolds him to not be rude. Raphael then steps up, offering to duel Raul. Inglis intervenes and tells Raphael to not look at Raul the entire time while fighting, as she says that something is wrong with how easily he's winning. Raphael and Raul begin to duel. He takes Inglis's advice and does not look at Raul. Instead, he looks at Raul's feet. Raphael is dominating against Raul, with the knights cheering. Raphael, however, things take a turn as Raul feints an attack, and Raphael bashes into the wall instead of Raul. Raul ends up winning the battle as he slashes against Raphael's back with his wooden sword. Raul commends Raphael's strength and that he is different from the rest of the soldiers as he is their heir, but he openly mocks him by telling the knight that they will accept a holy knight like Raphael to lead them someday. Seeing this shameful display, Inglis intervenes and challenges Rahl to a duel by asking him if he's willing to teach her a bit before they go. Obviously, Rahl does not take Inglis seriously as she is just a little child. He smirks and tells Inglis to find some dolls to play with. Inglis, however, does not take this kindly as she blackmails Rahl, threatening to expose his scheme with using binding magic against the knights. Later, left with no other choice, Rahl accepts the duel. Meanwhile, Luke, Inglis's father, and Raphael are worried about Inglis. They are against letting Inglis duel Rahl because Inglis is just a little girl, and Rahl would definitely beat her. But Inglis proudly states that she's going to duel Rahl to uphold the honor of knights and that she is her father's daughter. But in reality, she just wants to fight someone. Also, not to mention, she wants to stop Ronnie from crying and avenge Raphael's defeat. She also tells her father that if he doesn't let her duel Rahl, she'll tell her mother about the vase he bought. This causes Luke to agree and cheer his own daughter on. Ronnie also cheers on Inglis happily as the duel begins. Rahl starts with using his binding magic against Inglis, but Inglis is able to dispel it with ease by patting her chest 3 times, much to Rahl's confusion. She also thinks to herself that she can easily win the duel with ether, but where's the fun in that, she thinks to herself. Inglis wants this duel to be measured by skill and swords, not magic. Inglis now has the perfect opportunity to measure her current ability and sword fighting in this duel. The battle begins, and Inglis is perfectly deflecting all of Rahl's attacks with her eyes closed. Rahl attempts to attack Inglis from behind, but she deflects it. Inglis is doing excellent as she is able to predict each one of Rahl's moves. Everyone is astonished, with Luke happily exclaiming that Inglis is a child prodigy. Rahl is frustrated to the max as he angrily asks what Inglis is. In the end, Inglis becomes the victor and manages to beat Rahl with her eyes closed. She ends the battle with a slash to the back, the same with what Rahl did to Raphael. Rahl surrenders, defeated by a little girl. Inglis smiles and thanks Rahl for the duel as everyone gathers around Inglis and congratulates her. She will not stop there. She promises to herself that she will aim even higher. After all,